All right, today, let's play Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You got three options. If you don't know the answer, you can either use your 50-50, or you can phone a friend, or you can check the audience. But you have a chance to win $1 million. Let's play. Is that really the theme song to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with Regis Philbin?
No, that's the theme song for Brian's head.
Oh, hey, didn't we buy Regis clothes growing up? Regis Philbin clothes, remember? We would go to like this outlet.
Shirts. Yes, so I had not thought about that. That's the first time I thought about that in like 30 years. Not that much, maybe 25 years. So they had the Regis Philbin line of shirts. They were like kind of silky, but they were shiny too. Like shiny. You know what I mean?
And this is when the fat knots on the tie were coming back.
Yes.
And so you could wear these like these big old ties with a fat knot, because in the 90s, wasn't it skinny ties and a skinny knot on your tie?
Yep.
That was the
skinny
fashion.
Belt, skinny ties. Yeah.
And then
then fat belts came into style. The big fat, like brown
like
belts.
The big fat leather belts. That's right.
Yep.
That's like circa 2000. That's 25 years ago, man.
I still wear fat belts because I'm old.
I try to get the elastic around my waist now because it's just more comfortable.
Yeah, bro, I tell everybody that you're the good-looking brother.
Dude, you're the good-looking brother. You had your shirt off before the episode, and I was like over here like, dang, you can tell you're lifting. You can really tell.
You're so funny. So we'll get into that. First, let's talk about what we're reading today, which is The Simple Path to Wealth for anybody who stumbles upon this podcast or YouTube video and it's like, who the heck are these guys? And why are they talking about
They're two bros lit. They're smoking cigars. One guy's got water stains on his t-shirt. What?
We're going to talk about all that. We haven't seen each other. We've seen each other. We haven't done a podcast in too long.
4 weeks.
So
It's been 4 weeks, even though we talked last week.
And you know what they're missing if they're not watching the YouTube video?
Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing. I'm not doing anything right now.
They can't see you. So if you're listening on your favorite podcast app, Brian,
don't tell them. Don't tell them.
You got to go to YouTube on Two Bros Lit so that you can see what Brian is up to.
Let's get into it.
You got a fat cigar, man. Tell me about your cigar. It's fat. It looks good.
So if we're comparing cigars, hold yours up.
Oh, you got something.
Hold yours up. Yeah, mine's much bigger than yours. In fact,
if you want to show it to my pinky here. Let's see it to your pinky. About the same size. Texas toast. But you've smoked one of those before, a Rojas.
I have, but I have not smoked this one on the podcast. So this is a Rojas Texas toast. Well, it is a 6x70. So this ring gauge is 70 inches around. Not 70 inches, 70 millimeters.
Maybe? Millimeters.
70 millimeters around.
So if we have any European listeners, they will be able to relate to how big that actually is. But if you're an American listener, 70 millimeters is like an inch, I think. Or maybe more.
I think 60, maybe I'm wrong. My dog is in here with me, so she's getting up and getting down.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask the
dog. She might
dog.
start barking. So if we have to do what?
I thought you were going to ask the dog. How, is it an inch or 70 millimeter?
Elsa. Yes, that's right. Is 60 millimeters 1 inch? What would you say to that? She says she doesn't know.
Dude,
we've been away from the podcast for way too long.
This is a banger, man. I'm just excited to talk to you.
This and big old cigar is a banger. It is a banger.
It's like the opening's a banger.
So it's so big that I can't even fit. That I can't even fit my thing over the top of it.
That's what she said.
My cigar cutter.
So what'd you do? Did you just poke a hole in it?
No, I just cut little bits off at a time. So I like cut this corner, cut this corner, till finally I get enough to where I can stick my mouth around it and suck on it.
How long is that one going to take you? I'm not commenting on that. I'm not going to comment.
That's what she said.
Talking about The Office, man, that is classic. It's one of the best series ever to go on TV. But how long is that going to smoke, or how long will you be smoking that one for?
So I've smoked this one. So this is actually the reason I get this one is because I think these cigars are $3.50. Like you can get them for $3.50. I mean, hour and a half, 2 hours.
That's cheap. Okay.
Yeah, but it's good. Now I don't necessarily like smoking a big cigar like this, a big fat cigar. But if I bought like a Robusto or a Churchill, which are considerably smaller than this one, it's going to be like $3.40 rather than $3.50. So it's like I might as well buy the big one for $3.50 and get an extra 45 minutes to an hour out of it.
Bigger is better.
And it reduces.
That's the Texas motto. Everything in Texas is bigger.
Bigger is better.
Bigger is better.
That's what she said.
That's what she said.
But yeah. So I also, it reduces the number of cigars that I smoke.
That's true. So
because if I can smoke one a day, or I can smoke 2 cigars a day. Well, if I make it one of these big bad boys, it's just one a day. So yeah,
I've smoked. This is my 3rd cigar this week.
Oh, that's a lot for you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
All right, so we got to explain the wet spot on my shirt. It's because I got excited when I saw you.
You used your shirt to clean up.
No, I'm lactating.
Oh, you're lactating. Wow. Oh, gosh, that's funny, dude. So this is Spock. He has a drill in one hand and a cigar in the other hand. Casual Friday with Crocs. That is so American.
No, he doesn't have a cigar. It's a phaser.
What's in his right hand?
He has a tricorder in his right hand.
Okay.
And a phaser in his left hand. And the reason it's Casual Fridays is because he's wearing shorts and a t-shirt.
And Crocs.
And Crocs? Yes, and Crocs. I didn't even notice that.
So American.
Look at you. And there are tribbles at the bottom.
I love that.
Little tribbles.
I don't even know what that is.
Have you ever seen the episode Trouble with Tribbles?
No,
So there's this space trader who comes onto the USS Enterprise. And this is an original series episode. So this is like the 60s. He comes on and he has these cute little furry tribbles. And they're about the size of a big southern biscuit. And they just kind of giggle. And they're all hair. They're all hair. And he's like, would you like one of these tribbles? I'll sell it to you for cheap. And so he sells it to Uhura, of all people, for cheap. You remember Uhura? Uhura was the communications officer.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
So...
I never watched it.
Okay. I have no clue who she is, but I'm going to act like I do.
Oh, it's a girl. So okay, gotcha. Okay.
She was the only black chick on all of the original series, pretty much.
I don't remember.
You still don't remember?
I still don't remember.
She's famous. Martin Luther King. So this is kind of funny. We're getting way off. We will talk about the simple path to wealth eventually. Martin Luther King talked to Uhura. I forgot her real name. It was right there on the tip of my brain.
Hey, when we get big, we're going to have somebody on ChatGPT, and we're going to be like, I can't remember her name, look her up. And they're going to tell somebody to look her up, and then they're going to give us real-time feedback and real-time results. That's the future, though.
What was Uhura's real name in Star Trek? Oh, she says she can't remember either. So Elsa doesn't know. She's right here.
Hey, let's talk about my cigar. We haven't talked about mine yet.
Oh, no, but I got to finish my story about the tribbles.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
So he sells her the tribble. Oh, and let me go back to the Martin Luther King comment. So she was thinking about quitting Star Trek, the original series, and that was actually the first interracial kiss on primetime television, was Kirk and Uhura kissing, but it wasn't a voluntary kiss. There was an alien overlord who forced them to kiss, so that way it wasn't as looked down upon, because back then was the civil rights movement, all of that.
Right.
So anyway, Uhura was thinking about getting out of the original series, and the story is that Martin Luther King Jr. talked to her. Martin Luther King talked Jr. Right?
Yep.
Jr. Talked to her and said, no, you are an inspiration to thousands of black folk out there. stay on so that way we have a role model and somebody who can represent us on this hugely popular series. And she did. She stayed and she became massively popular, obviously, over the years. But anyway, so the Tribbles, this guy sold her a Tribble. Well, the catch was that Tribbles multiply. And they multiply faster than rabbits. So if you leave the room and you come back, there are 6. If you leave the room and you come back, there are 12. If you leave the room and come back, there are 30. So eventually
24.
they're taking...
Should be 24.
They're taking over the ship.
Okay.
And they have a shipment of grain that they're trying to deliver to this planet that's experiencing a famine. And the Tribbles get in and eat all the grain. Oh, no. But then all the Tribbles die, and they find out that the Klingons actually poisoned the grain in order to try to make the Federation look bad. Anyway, that's the trouble with Tribbles. It's one of the most famous Star Trek episodes ever. And this right here is a Tribble. These 3 things are Tribbles.
Okay.
But this shirt is unique because Spock is dressed down, which we never see him dressed down in Star Trek. He's always like...
He's always in a suit. Nerd. Yeah, that's right.
He's always in his uniform. And then the wet spot was because I put this T-shirt on and it was wrinkled this morning, but I wanted to wear this T-shirt because it's very casual and comfortable, and it's Casual Fridays, and I always like cool T-shirts like this because I like nerdy T-shirts.
The last couple weeks or last couple episodes, you have not missed your Star Trek presence. You've worn a Star Trek shirt out of the last 5 episodes, I think 4 times. So I wanted the wrinkles to get out of the shirt, so I put some water on it, and it got too much water on it, so I was drying it, which is the reason I had my shirt off when I first started talking to you. It looks good right now. I can't see any of it right now, so that's good.
Yes.
So Brent's smoking a condo. I've been excited I bought 29 cigars in Tenerife.
Holy cow, dude.
It was like €170. I just got a mix and match of every single one of the cigars I got. That's more expensive than I thought it would be. Because it's like $200 for 30 cigars. That's like, it's not bad. It's like $7 a cigar. Well, and I got some that were like €12. I got some that were $3.50. So,
right.
I mean, I got every one that I could get. I got like 2 or 3 of each. So, but they're so good. I don't know if it's the climate, the sun, because in Tenerife it rains. I think they said 2 days out of the year. Like it's a unique taste. This one's super mild. That's all I can really tell you about it. But every time I light up a Tenerife cigar, I absolutely like it. That's why I've smoked 3 times this week. So,
and we actually we need to tell the people that we missed an episode last week. So typically, we like releasing every 2 weeks.
Yeah,
but
that's right.
It's going 3 weeks this time because we have both been absolutely ridiculously crazy. So what have you done? And actually, we've talked recently, but I don't think you told me.
2 or 3 times. Yeah.
The details. No. So why don't you go into what you did and the reason that we haven't recorded in 3 weeks and why we're so excited to finally record an episode and why we're a little crazy.
Well, we went to Tenerife for 2 weeks, 14 days, and we literally got an Airbnb, sat on the beach, hiked, did excursions on Tenerife, which is our favorite place to be not in Germany. And then last week we went to the Dolomites, which is the Italian Alps, and we hiked for 5 days and we camped for 5 days. So that was, you wake up, you're in nature, you're making your food at like 7:00 in the morning, and you're outside, and you go to bed and you basically sleep outside because you're in a tent. But that was such a good time just to disconnect. The only thing I did with my phone was take pictures. Like, we turned our phone on airplane mode almost the entire time, and it was so good to disconnect and just be together as a family. We played Exploding Kittens too many times that I could count. And then the game, it's a game of cat and mouth. We played it last night. We've already played that game 600 times. And I beat Soren once. Like, he's beat
you every time.
Oh my goodness, that kid!
That's
can
the same
knock
thing
the
with
black
Eli,
ball.
man.
I don't know what it is, but
he can knock the black ball out.
Oh yeah, like consistently. He's been
Wow.
practicing. Like, he sits and practices it. So
That's so funny.
if they ever
I
have
love
a
it.
professional cat and mouse league, he is going to be signed to a max contract for sure in his near future. So, but yeah,
Which
what did you guys
reminds me,
do?
where's
You
your
guys
shirt?
went.
Bro, you're supposed to
I'm
wear your
wearing
shirt
it tomorrow
today.
because we're hiking tomorrow.
Oh, nice. You're
I'll
actually
take
going to wear
pictures.
that out in public?
Oh,
Are
heck
you-
yeah, I
you-
am.
You're going to take pictures in your bedroom, and then you're going to switch
No.
it out for another shirt out
No,
in
no, I'm
public.
wearing it on the hike tomorrow, and I'll take
I
pictures
forgot.
and
What
show
does
you.
it say? What does it say? I
It
forgot.
says, "I like to take long walks away from people."
We should like write in, except for my family.
Except for
Underneath it.
Brian and Katie and Soren and Megan and Eli. I
Yeah,
guess
there we go.
family. Yeah. So tell us where you went. You guys went to a more exotic destination.
Yeah, so Meg and I have had this conversation because I love camping. So growing up, when we would go on vacation, we would go camping in our camper. And some of the best memories that I had were of us camping. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, when I think of good memories, I think of vacation and going to see Mount Rushmore, going to see Grand Canyon, going to Colorado Springs, going to Hershey, Pennsylvania, going to Williamsburg, Virginia, going to Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Like, we went to all of these different places in our camper, and one of the reasons why you take a camper is because it's so cheap. So we did not go to a cheap location.
Staying at KOAs, dropping your
KOAs.
soap on the way to shower, dropping your
Having to
clothes on
wash
the
off
ground.
all the dirt.
Yep.
And then you take a shower
Playing
and then you walk
Monopoly when it
back
rained.
to your camper and your feet are all dirty
Yeah.
by the time you get back to the camper. But I love it. But
yeah.
it's not something that Megan would love at all. So we will not be camping. But maybe we can do like a guys camping trip. And we actually talked about that. Like, if you ever come over, we can do something similar to Bragg, which is bike ride across Georgia. And I think several nights you're out camping in like a tent. And like, that's something I think that me and you and Soren and Eli could do.
Definitely.
It's kind of father-son bonding. But so we instead went to somewhere very expensive, which was Cancun. And we stayed there for 5 days.
But you had fun. And your pictures, man, you clean up
I did.
really well.
I mean,
Like,
I am pretty
your
handsome.
fit
What can
was-
I say?
Or how what do they say? Your drip. Sorry.
Your fit.
Your drip.
fit.
No.
Your
The kids
fit
say
drip.
drip these days.
Your
Like,
drip
hey,
fit.
I like your drip.
Your-
what they
your
say.
Grip. They say grip now. Your grip.
No,
your grip is
seriously?
really strong, Dad.
No, it's drip. Anyway, your drip was low key mid.
Lip.
I'm just trying to use all the
My
terminology now.
lip. My lip was amazing.
Yeah, you look good though. Wearing shirts like me right now.
So Megan dresses me up when we go out in public. She's not embarrassed because I wear shirts like this all the time. Because I love it. I love it because I'm a nerd and I'm a proud nerd. But whenever we go to certain destinations, so most of the time she doesn't care if I wear shirts like this. But if we're going out to a nicer restaurant, she's like, "Can you put on a non-Star Trek shirt, please?"
one that doesn't have holes or is wet on it. So I got a
Pretty
question
much.
for you, Brian. Since
Bring
we're
it.
talking about the simple plan to wealth, where does vacations and planning for your vacations fit in to your financial plan that leads you to be wealthy?
So one of the negatives about the FIRE movement, which he talked about the FIRE movement a little bit. Are you familiar with the FIRE movement at all?
No, did he talk about it in the book?
So he didn't actually mention the FIRE movement, but he did
Right.
talk about the concepts of the FIRE movement. So the FIRE movement is financially independent, retire early, FIRE.
Okay.
It grew massively in popularity in right after 2008. So from like 2008 to 2015, one of the main spokespeople for the FIRE movement is Mr. Money Mustache, Pete something. Pete, I can't remember Pete's last name. But does Mr. Money Mustache ring a bell?
No.
So do you know who wrote the foreword to this book?
Was it him?
Mr. Money Mustache.
No.
So Mr. Money
Okay.
Mustache is he was the first firer, basically.
Gotcha.
He's the first person who promoted the philosophy of being financially independent and retiring early. And the whole concept, it was kind of a tech bros movement where you would make, I don't know, 200,000 back in the, 2010, you could make 200 grand a year, live off of $25,000 a year by living in a piece of crap house and not spending any money, save $175,000 a year for 7 or 8 years, have $1.5 million in the bank, and just retire and say, F the world, I'm not going to do anything now.
Right.
I'm retiring early. And that concept appeals to so many people because they hate their jobs. They hate their boss. And so Mr. Money Mustache wrote these blogs where he described in detail the process by which he fired early, by which he was able to be financially independent and retire early. His definition of being financially independent is when your investments make more than your income does, than your job does. When the investment income that you have from your investments in stocks and that type of thing, which we're going to talk about related to this book, make more money than you can make on your own by working. Well, at that point, you're financially independent and you can choose whether or not you want to work. So he wrote the foreword to this book. And one of the negatives of the FIRE movement is literally that you spend no money. Like, you live off of, I've heard of people living off as little as $10,000 a year. Now, granted, they're living in their mom's basement, or they're literally camping out in a tent every night for free, so they don't have any housing costs if they're able to do that. But there are people who live on $20,000, $25,000 a year, which congrats to them, that's great. And they say, oh, I have a great time in life, and I don't care what other people think, and what I do is fun. But in reality, it's hard. It's not hard to have fun without spending money, but it's hard to have fun without spending at least a little money. So, for example, so one of the best memories that I have with you is going to Hilton Head in 2022, 2023.
Right.
And that cost a couple $1,000s for us to go to Hilton Head, spend that time. Could we have done that at the house? We could have. But would we have had as much fun exploring? And we did low-cost activities. Like, we went to the beach, which cost nothing. We rode bikes, which was like $15 a person, $10 a person. Yep. So that's a low-cost activity. But we went mini golfing. That was like $20 a person. We went out to eat. Granted, we could have cooked every single meal inside the townhouse that we rented, but we're forcing the ladies, or we're choosing to. So it costs money to do things to have fun. And although we could have made memories by going to a national park in North Carolina, or camping out in a tent, the realization is that's not for the reality is that's not for everyone.
Right.
And so it does cost some money to make good memories. And the one thing that I found with the FIRE movement with a lot of people is that once they reach their FIRE number, which is that number that they need in investments in order to choose whether or not to work, they kind of say, well, what's my purpose now? Mm-hmm. What do I do now? Like, I'm just sitting at home all day. I'm not doing anything. And a lot of them choose to go back to work. So my issue with that is they could have chosen instead to invest a little less aggressively. So in the book, J.L. Collins talks about having a 50% savings rate at a minimum.
Right.
So my response to that is, instead of having a 50% savings rate, how about a 25% savings rate, which is still darn good. That's still freaking good. And use that other 25% to do fun stuff. And you can do low-cost fun stuff so you don't feel bad about it. But let's not force everybody to go out in a tent and get eaten up by mosquitoes just to save $500 on, campground spots, rentals, because we don't want to pay $50 a night for our campground. So for vacations, to me, over the years, it's changed. Before, I was definitely anti-vacation, I would say, or I was very pro cheap vacation. But now I definitely see the value. And although I didn't like spending so much money in Cancun, the reality is it made Megan very, very happy. It made her very, very happy.
Yeah, I got you.
Her happiness is worth more than any money that I could save.
That's right.
And she enjoyed that trip more than anything.
And it was just you and her.
Amount of money that is.
And it was just you and her. And that's something that Katie and I, we have not taken a trip yet, just me and her, because we realized with Soren, he's 10, we have 8, maybe 7 more summers left with him.
Yep.
And we're like, hey, you know what? We can take our trips together when he's out and we live in Germany, so we have no family that he can go to. So, but I think it's important that you and Megan were able to take that trip together, and even yourself build those memories, have those quiet times, walking the beach, at dinner. That's really important for the growth of your marriage and to deepen your relationship. So, you can't spend enough money to make those things happen. I think those are very important.
Yeah, very important. Which actually, how old does Soren need to be in order for you to allow him to fly by himself?
I think he has to be 16 according to the airlines, I think.
Well, I mean, that's always an option. Like, you can always fly him back. That way you and Katie can go on a week vacation, somewhere. Right. Or maybe in 2 years or 3 years. Maybe you guys can fly to the States, and then, like, Soren can hang out with us, and you guys go to Hershey, Pennsylvania for a week.
Camping in your backyard. Just use your pool
money,
as the resort.
And we will leave you alone.
Yeah.
No, we can't go outside. Yeah, Brent and Uncle Brent and Aunt Katie are in their tent.
Yeah.
We know what that means.
Why is there a sock on the zipper? Why is there a sock on the zipper of the front door of the tent?
It's a tie.
Oh, it's a tie these days? Oh, okay.
I thought it was a tie.
I thought it was a sock. I don't
know.
All right.
Why is there a pair of boots outside their tent?
This book. Do you think that, so he opened up, I think the first sentence that he opened up with was basically a sentence about if you want to learn anything in this world, there is a book written on what you want to learn. Right. No matter what it is. There's a book out there that you can learn something from, or there's a bookshelf of books that you can go to glean more knowledge, more information. Is this the only book that you need to have to be financially independent? Is this the only book out of the hundreds, thousands of books out there, millions of financial articles that have already been written? Is this the book, in your opinion?
I would say it's the best book for people who already have a decent handle on their financial life. So if they don't have a decent handle on their financial life, he does not go into enough detail on budgeting, spending, paying off debt, in my opinion. And there are other books out there. Dave Ramsey is one of those that we know people. We have friends who will never watch this podcast, so I'm just going to say it, who have gone so deeply in debt. Gosh. And they have gotten inheritances and blown those inheritances in a year or two. They have sold their houses and spent the equity in their houses in a year or two. And now they're so deeply in debt that they are having to do things like drive Uber at nights just to pay the bills. For those people, and they're good people. They're great people, but they don't understand.
So why are people financially illiterate then? Because I was in that category maybe until I was 33, 34. Like, I was financially illiterate. And my reason why I was, because I did not want to face the fact that I was doing things wrong and I was being irresponsible with my money. And because of that, I knew I was being irresponsible with my money, but I didn't want to face the consequence of tightening the belt, of confronting my spending, my selfish, the cars, the trips. Although I don't dress that well, the clothes is still, it's still expensive. I didn't want to face it. Do you think that's why people are financially illiterate? Because they just don't want to face the reality that they are really blowing so much money and they're literally blowing their retirement. What do you think?
Yep, blowing their future. So I think that the reason why people are not prone to follow things like the simple path to wealth is the same reason why we have so many fat people in America, because they're not willing to do the hard work of eating more healthy, exercising, and reaping the benefits. They see the immediate benefit that a Snickers bar can give them and the immediate rush that they get whenever they drink a beer. So therefore, they're going to continue drinking their beer and they're going to continue eating their Snickers bars who cares if I'm going to be unhealthy and I'm going to die at 60 from a heart attack because I'm eating unhealthy now. They don't see the long-term consequences of their decisions, so they continue to eat pizza every night for dinner. The same reason people don't see the danger of living in debt. They don't see the reason for saving and investing because it takes so long to see it. It takes 10 years before you're like, holy cow, I just looked at my investments and where did that come from? Like, that's literally from $500 a month in savings. That's how much I've saved. Like, it does work, but it takes 10 years to get to that point. And so people don't see that payoff. And as a result, they don't invest because all they see is if I put $500 a month in my Roth IRA, and at the end of the year, there's $6,000 sitting in my Roth IRA, and maybe the stock market grew 10%. So now it's worth $6,000, and it grew. Obviously, the last months did not see that 10% growth. But let's say that now it's at $6,283, and they're like, $283. I can make that in a day or 2 days of working. That's all that my money got me at the end of a whole year? Why would I do this? This is a waste of my time. I can use that $6,000 and go to Disney World right now and have an amazing trip with my family. You know what? That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to take the money out of my Roth IRA because $243, that's crap. What? That's ridiculous. And so they're not willing to put aside pleasures currently in order to benefit in the future. They don't see the payoff. Just like with health, they don't see the payoff.
Yeah,
that's why I think
point.
people make those decisions.
I remember on my first house, we were going to renovate it, and I had 10 in a span of about 2 years. I was putting in 100. No, it wasn't 100. It had to been a little bit more than 100. Anyway, I had 10 grand in my retirement. I was like 23. And I took that 10 grand and
trash truck is here.
I took the 10 grand out to renovate my house because I needed 10 grand to do something to my house. It's like, okay, I got plenty of time. I'm 23. I can get that $10,000 back over the course of a couple of years. I'll be okay. Little did I know, I did the math on that $10,000 from now, 23 to 40. That $10,000 without adding like any money monthly to that $10,000 would have been around $150,000. And that renovation didn't cost me $10,000. It cost me $150,000 because I took that $10,000 out. And albeit I did put money in the future, but if I just would have left that $10,000, I would have $150,000 more than what I currently have. And it's the same thing with car payments. Like, we've had this discussion before. When I was in my late 20s, early 30s, we had two Lexuses and we were paying $1,000 for two cars, which, to be honest with you, to today's car payments, that's pretty cheap to have two.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Two luxury Lexuses that were a year old for $1,000 a piece. But even that $1,000 a month that was wasting, that's $12,000 a year that I was putting towards cars, not putting towards my investments. And that is probably the number one thing in America, from what I can see, that is robbing people of financial freedom in their 50s and 60s and 70s, is that they have to have that truck. They have to have that car. And I think it's probably the purchase that I will never do again, is I will never take a loan out on a car. I will never do that again. Even if I have to drive like a hoopty car to get where I want to be financially, I will do that, even though I know people are going to look at me and be like, what in the world is this guy driving a 10-year-old car for? So lessons learned. And he goes into the book and he talks a lot about, he didn't do it right himself. He talked a lot about how when he was younger, he didn't do things the right way. But if you can eventually figure this out and be honest with yourself that you are financially illiterate, and you take the pain to go through that 6-month, 1 year process of making sure that your finances are in order, on the other side of that year, it is so much more comfortable, and you have a plan. And if you don't have a plan, you're going to fail. And I think this book gives you really a clear step plan that you only need three things. You need stocks, you need bonds, and you need cash. And he kind of tells you how to do that. And to me, it's mind-blowing to read this book. I read it twice, but I read it a lot more closely this time. People need to read this book. And it is, it's life-changing. If you follow the principles of this book, you will be wealthy.
The number one thing that holds most people back from being wealthy is their cars. Like, that's the number one thing. I would say number two would probably be vacations. But a lot of people understand that it's not a good idea to go into debt for vacations, but they don't understand that concept for cars. And it's interesting how you mentioned, like, it's okay. Like, you would drive a 10-year-old car. I have not. I did buy that car new. I bought it for $21,000 in 2016. The car that I have now, Honda CR-V, got a great deal on it at the time. And my car payment, I think, was $500. Paid it off in 4 years, and I have not had a car payment in 6 years. I will continue to not have a car payment because, thankfully, we are in the position where our parents have a little bit of money, and they have a 12-year-old car, 2014 Chevy Malibu, that they were thinking about getting rid of so that they can get a new car. It only has 120,000 miles on it. My car has 220,000 miles on it. So I went to them and I said, hey, can I buy your car? And again, I understand how privileged I am with this, but they were like, well, let's just give you the car. So that will allow me to go another 2, 3, 4 years, hopefully. Of course, there are going to be repairs over that time without having to buy another car and then possibly make payments on the next car that I buy or pay cash for the next car that I buy. And I can use that cash and I can put it in the stock market and I can let it grow. And yes, it's only $243 this year, but it'll be $800 next year. And then it's going to be $1,200 the next year. And then it's going to be $2,000 the next year, and then $5,000 and $10,000. And it just builds upon itself with compound interest. There were two things that he said. The first thing was the story about the monk and the minister. Which the minister was somebody who served the king and lived a life of luxury. But as a result, he had very high expenses because of his life of luxury. He looked at his friend the monk, who lived on rice and beans, and the minister said something to the monk like, if you could learn to do service to the king, then you could enjoy the life of luxury. And then the monk's response was, if you could learn to live on rice and beans, then you wouldn't have to cater to the king.
Right.
That story, I think, is the perfect description of how much do we have to have now? How much do we have to spend money on to impress people who don't even care what we drive, who don't even care the house that we live in, who don't even care the vacations that we take? And he says that there are three things that each of us need to do in order to be successful in this area and to be closer to the monk than we are the minister. And that's number one, spend less than you earn. Number two, invest a surplus. And number three, avoid debt, which is the single most dangerous obstacle to building wealth. Those three concepts, I feel like he goes into number two the most, which is why this book is great for investing the surplus. Not as great for spending less than you earn, which I feel like books by Dave Ramsey might do a little better on that topic. And also avoiding debt. Again, I feel like maybe books like Dave Ramsey or Clark Howard, those types of books would be better served for the people who are not able to start investing because they're in so much debt. But what do you say to those three concepts? Spend less than you earn, invest the surplus, avoid debt, and how has that affected you? And you have already gone into a little bit of detail about your journey, but did you think anything when you heard the story of the monk and the minister and then those three concepts?
Yeah, I think when I read the monk and the minister, a couple of things off the top of my head. Number one, being content with what you have brings tremendous joy. So you think about a monk. But you have to learn that. Well, yeah, and I think when you talk about the third thing, which you said was avoid debt, I'll start with this, and I'll go back to your question about the monk and the minister. I think that when you are in debt is because you haven't done the work on yourself. Because we're such selfish beings and We want to bring our self-pleasure through the things that we buy and through
Right now.
instant gratification.
Yes.
We haven't done the work to recognize what our flaws are and what entices us. So I think that you talked about different books about spending less than you earn, probably Dave Ramsey. Invest the
Right.
surplus, maybe J.L. Collins, The Simple
J.L.
Plan to
Collins.
Wealth.
Yes.
Avoid
1000%.
avoid debt. I think you need to go into books like Stoicism, Ego
Yes.
is the enemy, obstacle is the way, stillness is the key, to learn more about yourself. Now, to go back to the monk and the minister, one, the minister to me was not content. He had to have a position, to have the status, the title, to look like he was prominent, that he was important. The monk retreated to the mountains, to his monastery, did the quiet time of solitude to figure out what he believes, how he truly behaves. And then when they come back together, because they were childhood friends, when they come back together, you're going to see that if you do the work on yourself, whereas opposed to you try to live and keep up with the Joneses, like the minister's probably doing, when you come back from when you're children, you live your life and try to improve yourself in all areas, and you come back and you're 40 years old, you're going to see which person or your friends that you grew up with who put in the time to improve themselves as opposed to those who are seeking instant gratification. So when I read that passage on the monk and the minister, I just saw, obviously I want to be like the monk, but the monk is the person who has dealt with the underlying factors in his life that cause him to make the decisions that not only keep him from financial wealth in the future, but he makes the decisions that make him the best version of himself. Whereas the minister didn't do that. And he relied upon wealth. He relied upon trying to please the king. And when we don't answer to anybody, I think that's when we are at our true happiness. When we have the financial independence to not have to go to work and answer to that boss, then we are content. We are happy. And I actually wrote in my personal journal a lot about the monk and the minister. But those are a couple of things that came off the top of my head just by you asking that question. And I don't think that we read parables that in that way in this day and age. Like, we're so busy flicking through our phones and watching videos on TikTok and Instagram that we've gotten away from those type of parables to compare that to our life and where we're at currently. And I think a lot of these scenes about financial independence comes back to, are we doing the work to improve ourselves and look at the underlying issues that we have? Because a lot of times our debt is a result of the underlying issues that we have as people.
So I think the important thing about the parable is that J.L. Collins makes the observation that it's not wrong to be the monk or the minister. Like, it's not wrong necessarily to want to own nice things in your life. And it's not wrong to want to live the life of a miser, for example, to live as cheaply as possible. Like, there's not one, it's not morally correct to be one or the other. I would say that there's some moral implications if somebody decides to go into debt to fund their lifestyle. Yes, I agree that that's a moral quandary. But if we're just looking at somebody who makes $100,000 a year and they're saving 10% for retirement, your typical whatever you're saving, and then they're spending the $90,000 every single year. They're not going into debt, but they're also blowing the night. I'm say blowing because blowing even has negative connotations. But they're going on nice vacations, and they buy a nice dependable car every 5 years. They send their child to a private school because they think that that's beneficial rather than sending their... So they make those decisions, but they're not going into debt. There's nothing wrong with somebody deciding to live that lifestyle. If they have the inside of them right, like we're talking about Stoicism, we're talking about the book by Marcus Aurelius, Meditations. I couldn't remember it for a second there. If you're talking about they have their life right, they're content with where they are, but also they want to take a trip to Mexico every now and again, or they want to spend a little bit of money and fly to some tropical island, or they want to take a trip to Disney. It's okay to spend that money because you think that that will bring enjoyment in life. Just understand that that's not all there is to life. And it's typically better to be a little more monk than it is to be minister. And he even said in the book, he said, I'm a lot more monk than I am minister, but I understand that there are some people who want to enjoy the fancy things in life, and it's okay to spend money on those as long as you don't go into debt. Now, I did write down my personal views on debt, which I want to get your feedback on. So J.L. Collins was, we don't need to have debt at all. Like, debt is a bad thing. Even business debt, which is quote unquote good debt, is typically not good. Dave Ramsey has the same perspective, which is no debt at all for any reason other than a mortgage on a house. I have always said no debt, no new debt, if possible. And the only reasons why I would take out new debt, if possible, if I had to, was number one, for a house. That's obvious. It's really difficult to save up $300,000-$400,000 for a house and pay cash. Like, you're going to be saving for a while, and you're not going to be saving for retirement, which the compounding interest on retirement is super important as well. You're going to be spending money on rent. That's a whole nother discussion I don't want to get into. Number two is for a car. Like, if you can't save up $20,000 to buy a dependable car and you think that that's necessary, that's fine. Just buy as cheap of a car and as dependable of a car as possible. The problem that a lot of people get into is if you say, oh, go ahead, take out debt to buy a car, they're like, great. And they buy a Lexus for $60,000 and they have $1,000 a month payments. Like, if you're going to use debt to buy a car, then you need to make sure that you're buying as cheap and dependable of a car as possible, understanding that getting out of debt is the most important thing. And then number three, the only thing that I would ever gain debt on in some situations would be education. So I think that if you have to go into debt to go into college for your bachelor's, then that's an issue. Because there are community colleges where you can do your first 2 years that are so cheap. And like in Johnson County where we live, it's free. It's literally free if you graduate from a high school in Johnson County for your child to go to the local community college. You can get 2 years of education out of the way with at the local community college for free. And then, okay, I want to go to NC State or I want to go to NCU, and that costs $25,000 a year in order for me to go there. That's $50,000. That's a lot of money. Yes, it is, but also if we know that they're going to transfer there, whenever they start community college, we can start saving. So there are ways around educational debt. But third, the only other debt that I would even slightly consider is educational loans. If you absolutely had to, with the understanding that you're working when you're going through college, you're not blowing your money, you're not going out to get sushi every night. Like, this is an experience of you living as cheaply as possible while in college. You're not running up $100,000 in student loans, so that way you can enjoy partying for 2, 3, 4 years while you're in college. I've always said with debt, try as hard as possible to avoid new debt with any current debt that you have. And J.L. Collins has an interesting position on this. He said 3 to 5%. It's your choice if you want to pay it off.
Right.
I've always said if it's 5% or less, do not pay it off. Because the amount that you can make by taking that money you would have paid ahead on your debts, put it in the stock market, put it in retirement investment, you can make double that in the stock market. So if it's 5% or less, don't pay it off. And then J.L. Collins says if it's over 5%, pay it off as quick as possible. I say if it's between 5 and 8%, then it's your choice, because again, you can still put that money in Roth IRAs, you can put that money in your 401ks, and you can make still double that in 30 years by setting aside that money you would have set on your debt by putting in the stock market in your retirement accounts. And then I say if it's over 8%, pay it off as soon as possible. So that number for J.L. Collins was 5%. For me, it's 8%. If it's less than 8%, which our mortgage right now is 5.95% or something like that. So if we were going by J.L. Collins rules, then technically we would be putting all of our money down on our mortgage trying to pay that off. We would not be investing any money in the stock market and not reaping the benefits of that compounding interest. What do you say to that and my perspective on debt?
Well, you've already said this part the first part of the episode, but the single most dangerous obstacle to building wealth is debt. And we also talked about this too. I think the second most dangerous obstacle to building wealth is ignorance and not having these conversations about what debt is and how it affects you long term. See, the problem with debt is it has been promoted as a perfectly normal part of life. And it started after World War II when service members were coming back from the war and they maybe didn't have a job, but then they could borrow on a house to buy these cookie cutter houses that they were building all over the United States. And then they could buy all these appliances that were just now being invented to go inside these houses. Then, on top of all that, after World War II, it was the first time, I would say, in modern history, and you can fact check me on this or give me your thoughts on this, that lower middle income earners could almost match and replicate what a high income earner and how they were living, all because of they could go into debt to buy these things to appear that they were just as wealthy as the high income learners.
Right.
So I believe right now that there was no American dream, but people are borrowing their way towards that American dream through debt. And I think this is just absolutely rampant in the United States, from my perspective here in Europe, because from what I can see, Europeans don't have this European dream. But I would say that Europeans, and especially people in Germany, they live a lot better than people do in the United States. So I think debt has been sold to the millennials, maybe the generation, whatever the generation is before us, the generation X, that debt is good and that you need debt to get ahead. J.O. Collins talks a lot about how debt, if you are in a tremendous amount of debt or you're in debt, you're actually an indentured servant or you become a slave. You're actually in a prison if you're in debt. And I tell you, man, when I was in my late 20s and early 30s, I felt like I was in prison. I just felt helpless because you come to the first of the month and you get your income or you get your paycheck the first of the month or even the middle of the month. Let's say I'm making $2,000 in my first paycheck. Literally, 500 of that goes to a car. 500 of that goes to the bare minimum of my credit card. Now I'm left with 1,000. Okay, well, now I got to pay for groceries. I got to pay for a cell phone. I got to pay for all these things. And so people probably feel helpless and they feel that they can't get ahead because of their debt. But if they work to eliminate that debt, then obviously they're going to feel like they can get ahead.
I wrote his quote down. So he said, he's talking about FU money, which he means it as you just thought it. FU money.
Yeah.
But it stands for being financially unlimited. That way we stay family friendly. Right. So you're able to be financially unlimited if you have this pot of money, emergency fund. It's technically an FU fund is more than an emergency fund. It's money that you can live on that's over and above what you need for emergencies. But the quote that you just referenced was, those who live paycheck to paycheck are slaves. Those who carry debt are slaves with even stouter shackles. So that's the quote that kind of what you were just talking about.
Well, let's go through what you said do you think is good for debt. One, I'll go off the education side. Kids are growing up not as mature as they used to be. So let's talk about the greatest generation or the baby boomers. They came out of high school and already, I feel like, had a solid maturity level of what they wanted to do in life. And so whatever degree they got, they were able to put that degree into practice with the job. Today, kids come out of high school and they haven't spent the time to think about what they want to do. And so they go, and whatever bachelor's degree that they get, they go whatever student loan debt to get that bachelor's degree. And then they get into that job and they're like, this is not what I want to do. So then they try to change careers. So I don't know if I would recommend Soren going into any student loan debt. In fact, what we're trying to put into his ear, I don't know how popular this would be currently or how you would see this, but to actually serve, enlist do the 4-year minimum of military, so that way you can get some skills, you can get some structure, you can get some discipline, and then after you get your 4 years of service, then you can go to college on a GI Bill, get your college paid for, and then from there you can decide: do I want to continue serving and then re-enlist as an officer, or do I want to use the degree that I've got to get into my career, whatever I want to do. And the reason why I say that is because between the years of 18 and 22, go back to when you were 18 and 22, you did not think through the things that you needed to have in life at 30, at 35, at 40. But I think that right now, education is being sold as that time of life where kids can grow up, sow their wild oats. The problem with that is, if you're trying to grow up in those 4 years and sow your wild oats in 4 years, you don't really know what you want to do with your life. So I think that thinking through what do you really want to do with your life is very important to staying out of those student loan debts. As far as a car goes, I would say that's zero. Like you talked about, okay, well, go and buy a $20,000 car that's reliable, but there's many arguments that you can buy a $5,000-$6,000 car that's also reliable. Will you look prestigious to other people? No. But I think that's another problem with our internal selves, is we try to appear that we are wealthy in so many ways in this day and age, and that actually puts us more in a bind with our debt. So those are just some of the things that I was thinking through in response to what you said about debt.
And those are the debts that I would say I don't judge people if they decide to take them out, as long as it's limited. So everybody's in different situations. Everybody's under different financial constraints. Some people will find this book, or they'll find this podcast, or they'll find Dave Ramsey, and they already have $100,000 in student loans. They are already, driving a $60,000 Lexus, and obviously Dave Ramsey's recommend is, well, sell the car and buy a $5,000-$6,000 beater. There will be a point, and this is. It depends on everybody's logic, everybody's feelings, and people feel differently about stuff, where somebody will say, I'm not driving a $5,000 beater because I have 3 kids that are 3, 5, and 7, and I don't want to break down on the side of the road, and I feel horrible driving a $5,000 beater because I'm afraid it's going to break down all the time, and it stresses me out. If I could at least buy a $20,000 Toyota Camry that's dependable, then I would at least feel good and it would not stress me out. There are lots of different situations. I'm not saying that spending or going into debt to buy a car is a good thing, but I may do it one day. I may decide that it's better for me to pay 1.9% interest on a car that I would pay with cash, and instead take that money and invest it in the stock market. So I mean, there are lots of different perspectives, but those were just the only 3 examples when I said it even kind of makes sense in some situations to take out debt.
But I think the underlying factor here is spend less than you earn, live below your means. And this goes back to the monk of the minister. We have to have an element of sacrifice, of delayed gratification to reach this goal of being financially independent. Now, if you have not done the work in yourself to understand, I'm going to take my own example. I was very ignorant because I didn't want to face the fact that I didn't want to drive, or I wanted to drive a $60,000 Lexus because I wanted to appear that I was somebody that I wasn't. But I had to do the work in my own personal life to not have those appearances. I had to be willing to be humble enough to say that, what's more important to me is that I can leave generational wealth for my son, even though when he's 3, 5, 7, yes, he probably was in a car that was not as reliable as a $20,000 car, because I know that when if I can make the choice now to sacrifice and to put money into my retirement or into my investments, I know eventually that my son will take that money when I die, and he will never have to go through it, nor will his kids, and nor will my grandchildren, and nor will my great-grandchildren. So I think somewhere down the line, somebody has to make the decision to sacrifice something to get where we want to go financially and to get where we want our family to be financially 70 years or 100 years down the road. And I think we have to be willing to make those choices. And I think sometimes we rationalize, oh, I don't want my son or my daughter, 3, 5 years old, to be in a unreliable car. Of course, I'm not going to have a car that is the engine can blow up. But I think we need to make those sacrifices. Somebody does. And I think that's me. I need to make those sacrifices right now so that I know that Soren will never have to, hopefully, make those decisions for his kids and for my grandchildren to make those for their kids. I don't know if that makes sense. But that's where that's my thought process in the reasons why I want to live well below my means right now so that my kids can enjoy what I sacrificed for. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah, no, totally. And I think that's the reason. I think that's the reason why he says for number 3, avoid debt. If we're talking Dave Ramsey, it's no debt at all is acceptable. Period. For any reason. I think that a more reasonable position is understanding people's perspectives to just follow the basic 3 principles of spending less than you earn, investing the surplus, and avoiding debt. And for me, there are only 3 examples of where I would even consider debt. For no other reason would I consider debt at all. For those 3 reasons, I would consider debt because people are in different positions in life. Yeah. And again, although we understand that we can drive a $5,000 very dependable car, there are some people out there, you can talk to them till they're blue in the face, and you can say you need to get your heart right, you need to learn to be satisfied with what you have, but nothing you say will convince them that a $5,000 car is dependable. Literally, nothing you say. And the only way that they're going to be able to sleep at night is if they own a $20,000 car. There are people out there that are like that, and I can say that they're wrong, and I can think that they're wrong, but the reality is they will not be happy unless they own a $20,000 car. And my response to that is, at least it's not a $60,000 Lexus. You know what I mean? At least it's not a $75,000 BMW.
To go back on it, I know it may sound so arrogant for me to say that. And I realize that people may not have a job that I have, or they may not have dual income. And they may live in a part of the country that is more expensive to live in. Like, I get that. I know it could be interpreted that I'm privileged or that I'm arrogant. But I think the underlying principle is that we have to be content with what we have. And case in point, I remember, again, in my late 20s and early 30s, every single summer, because we live in Guam, there was no shopping, we would go back to the States and we would spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on clothes, and then we get back to Guam and I would wear a third of the clothes that I bought because I wasn't content. Like, I just wasn't content. And I think that contentment goes a long way in the pursuit of financial independence. And so I get it that it may sound arrogant on my part to say this is what you got to do. So let me rephrase a couple of things. This is what I had to do. This is the process that I had to go through to make sure my future generation of Tiptons are financially free from ever, hopefully, having to make those decisions I felt like I needed to make to be financially free. And I'm not going to be financially free probably until my mid 50s or late 50s, early 60s. And so it takes time to get there.
No, I don't think you're wrong at all. But people grow little by little, and this is the problem that I have with Dave Ramsey is if somebody is used to buying $60,000 cars or leasing new vehicles every 3 years or going out to dinner 5 nights a week. Yes, and from our perspective, they're blowing their money, and that quote unquote is wrong. But if you can get that person down from leasing a $75,000 BMW to leasing a $25,000 Toyota Camry, that's growth. So people are at different stages, and they have to realize their growth at their own pace. And although I would prefer that they go from leasing a $75,000 BMW, which is literally the absolute worst way that you can buy a car, to realizing that they need to be in a $5,000 beater, how many people are going to actually do that? If they're driving, it's a big step for them to go from spending $800 a month on a 3-year lease for a $75,000 BMW to going into debt for 3 or 4 years on a $25,000 Camry. That's a big step for them, and one that I would say is not completely there. They're not where they need to be, but hey, it's growth, and that's good. That's a good thing.
But one of the books that stimulated a lot of these thoughts was the book, The Psychology of Money, and how we actually think about our money.
We still need to read that, yeah.
Which was a chapter in this book, but money, how we view money, first of all, money is not necessarily what you can buy. It's what your money can earn. And I think that Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the book that we read and did a podcast on, really talked about that. It's not about what your money can buy, but it's about what your money can earn. But money is not just about...
work for money.
Right. The money is more than just spending. And
right.
Again, going back to the 20s, my late 20s, early 30s, that's all that I viewed money. I saw money as a way to buy this, buy that, have the latest technology, have the best iPhone every single year that the iPhone came out. But now I see money as a way to completely invest. And it's a question that I'm going to ask you at the end of the pod about how you're going to help Eli through all this. But even right now, I'm trying to put these nuggets in Soren's head about, what's the purpose of money. And he will say, oh, it's to put it into the stock market and invest. He has no idea what those things are. But I'm trying to put those tidbits in his conscience right now so that hopefully he does not struggle with the view of money that I had. And I think sometimes if you don't have a lot of money, you would think that you would be so protective of it and you would want to save it. You would want to invest it. But I think sometimes, I came from no money. I think that when you finally come into some money, because you don't have a psychology of money, you don't have the right way to think about money, your only view of money is that you should spend it. And I think that's the root problem with a lot of people. And it was a root problem with me was I only saw money as a means to make me happy because I was in retail therapy or I was trying to keep up with the Joneses. And I think boiling it down to how do we think about money? How has this changed for you over the years? Because when I look at you, I see you as somebody who's had the right mindset when it comes to money. But has this changed for you over the course of the last 2 decades?
No, so I've always been ridiculous with money. I've always been. I found Total Money Makeover when I was in college. So I think I was my senior year of college. So I was 22. This was 2002, 2003. And from that point, I was a Dave Ramsey-ite for probably 5 to 6 years.
I think you sent me his book when I was like 21 or 22.
Yeah.
I think you sent me his book.
I was so crazy about it. I bought a 10-pack. I remember the deal. You could get a 10-pack of his books from Ramsey Solutions. Back then it was, I don't remember what it was called, Financial Peace Incorporated or something. Yeah, right. You could get a box of 10 books for $100. I ordered that box and I gave them to everybody that was close to me because I felt so strongly about it, and I've lived by those principles ever since. Now, there are some things that I disagree strongly with Dave Ramsey, but I understand why he talks about it. So we've talked a lot about debt up to this point, and part of my disagreement with Dave Ramsey is the next part, which is what the whole book is about, which is investing the surplus. And J.L. Collins just makes it simple. If you're in the wealth accumulation stage, which is most of our life, which is where we're at right now, which is if you're not retired, you're in the wealth accumulation stage, then you need to put as much money as possible. He recommends 50%. If you listen to the Money Guys podcast, they recommend 25%. If you listen to Dave Ramsey, he recommends 15%. I would say 15% is your bottom number. Get out of debt first and then start saving for retirement. Start saving for your future at a minimum of 15%, and then invest that money. And this is where JL Collins and Dave Ramsey differs. Dave Ramsey talks about going to a financial advisor and then letting the financial advisor pick whatever mutual funds you want to invest in. And he talks about how most actively managed mutual funds actually do not perform equal to the index, which the index is just it's either the total stock market index, which is the 3,700 stocks that are available on the stock market currently. You're just buying different percentages equal to their weighted cap, and you're buying into one mutual fund that's very cheap. They just buy all of the stocks, and then as all of the stock market goes up, then your holdings go up as well at the same time, versus paying a financial advisor 1% a year or whatever it is to pick actively managed mutual funds, which don't even do as good as the index. He recommends in this book any extra money that you have, putting it in Vanguard's total stock market index. And he states that very strongly. I disagreed with that because I think that there are better offerings at Schwab and Fidelity. Fidelity, for example, if you're so concerned with the reason why we invest in index funds is because the cost, he called it ER. I can't remember what that stands for, but it's the cost of running the fund. I think he said the cost of running the Vanguard fund was 0.05%.
0.04,
and
yeah.
I looked, so it was 0.05 because I remember looking at my Schwab because I have mine invested in the total Schwab total stock market index, all of my funds. It was 0.04% was the cost for running the index fund, which is cheaper than Vanguard. And then I have my HSA, which is kind of a retirement account. I'm not going to go into detail in that here, but that's invested in Fidelity because Fidelity is the only company that offers a way to invest your HSA money, health savings account money. That is in Fidelity's total stock market zero fund, which means that it costs zero for me to have my money in that fund. So while he was praising Vanguard and saying that they were the best company, they're also the most expensive if you're going to be investing in index funds. So for that reason, he said, well, they were dragged kicking and screaming to the index funds, and Vanguard is owned by the mutual fund shareholders, so therefore I recommend Vanguard. I'm saying look out for your money, and if you can find a way to invest cheaper, even if it's only 0.01%, then do the cheaper method, which is what I have done. I have my checking account with Schwab, and then I have my HSA with Fidelity. With Fidelity, I'm not paying any. It's in their zero fund. So it doesn't cost me any money, and I'm just following the index. And then same with Schwab. But the number one thing that people need to do, which is super easy, is invest in a Roth IRA, invest in your 401k, and put 100% of that money in a total stock market index fund. Case closed. End of book. That's all you need to know. And that's basically what the rest of the book was about. Yeah. I have talked to so many people who are like, I don't know where to invest my money, and I don't know what to do. It's so complicated. And I'm like, do you have a Roth IRA? Oh, no, I don't have a Roth IRA. Okay, well, contact Schwab, contact Fidelity. They will walk you through, open it up, connect that Roth IRA to your checking account, and then once a month, start out with $100, just have $100 transferred over to that Roth IRA. Now, once you're within that Roth IRA, again, you can call up Schwab, you can call up Fidelity, talk to it costs you nothing, their representatives. I want to invest in a total stock market index fund. How do I do that? And you're literally on your phone, okay, push this button, and then, okay, you're going to buy $100 worth of Schwab Total Stock Market Index Fund. Push buy. Good. Now you have to do that once a month. You're going to transfer that $100. The first, set yourself a reminder, go in and buy $100 worth of Total Stock Market Index Fund. That's it. That's all you have to do. Do that every single month for the rest of your freaking life.
Yeah.
And then up that amount as much as you can. Again, Dave Ramsey's 15% of your income. So if you're making $100,000, just for easiness of numbers, total household income, $100,000, that means you're investing $15,000 a month in a total stock market index fund.
Right.
a year in a total stock market index in your Roth IRA or in your 401k, all of that. And that's going to be $1,200 a month, $1,300 a month invested. Oh, I can't do that right now. Well, figure out a way to where you can do that. If you're going to take the money guy's perspective, get it up 25%. If you're going to take JL Collins' perspective, get it up to 50%, where if you're making $100,000 a year, you're literally investing $50,000 a year in the stock market in different ways. He talks about and he goes into detail about how you can do that, but it's so simple. Just put money in your 401k. That's the most simple way to do it. Roth 401k is preferred, and invest it in a total stock market index fund. That's all you have to do. If you do that for 30 years and you're doing at least 15% of your income, you're going to be a multimillionaire, if not a multimillionaire by the time that you retire. That's literally as easy as it is. What say you about all of that?
It's true.
It's simple.
It's true.
That's all that it is.
Yeah,
it's just people have to do it.
Yeah. You got to make that phone call, or you got to. Yeah, I think I've said everything that my arguments for it. I have nothing else to say about that. I mean, you have to think long term though, and I think that's the problem that I had. Was I wanted to have $100,000 now. I want to have $500,000 now. You know, that's what we want. We want to see the fruit of that sacrifice right now. But like you said, it's not going to happen for 10 years. Like, it's slow growth. He also talked about the why indexing. And this is something that I always come to you and I'm like, oh, NVIDIA, I should put 10 grand, or I should put 1,000 or 500 or whatever into NVIDIA because that stock's going to blow up over the next couple of years.
Or Tesla, not Tesla. What's this Elon Musk stock? SpaceX.
Yes,
SpaceX.
Yep. And I have individual stocks, but I think indexing, like you already gave the percentage, but 83% of the time, indexing comes back better than an actively managed account. In fact, I had some numbers. I don't know where they're at. I had some numbers here that I think the reason why he is a proponent of Vanguard is because he's emotionally attached to Jack Bogle, which is the originator of the Vanguard index.
Yeah.
Because he started that index in 1975. And that's when J.L. Collins said that he started really indexing was in 1975, or that's when he started investing was in 1975. And I think it's just a good story for him. He can attach himself to a successful story. But since 1975, I don't know if these are correct numbers, but this is what I remember from reading. Since 1975, from like 1975 to 1990, the return on an index was, I want to say like 14%. And then from 2000 to 2008, I think the return was 3%.
Negative 3%, I think.
Was it negative 3? Okay, so it was in that ballpark. From 2008 to 2015, I think it was 17%. And then from 2015 to 2024, I think it dropped to like 15%.
Right.
And the reason why a lot of people, according to J.L. Collins, does not want to index is, one, they think they can time and beat the market, but they don't want to settle for average. And what's crazy is average in this case in point is, well, since the beginning of the Dow Jones, which happened, I think, in 1896, since 1896 to current day, the average return is 12.2%. From the last 30 years or whatever. Like, the stock market is that single most important way to build your wealth. I've been wanting to invest in real estate and other means to differentiate my portfolio, as people would say. But this book, just through reading it in the last couple of weeks, has solidified that I'm just going to stick to stocks. Yeah. Because if average return is, I know that I can get 12.2% over the next 30 years, to me, that's a huge win on my money. And whatever percentage I put in, like you, we do 25% or more. I know that I'm going to be financially secure even if there is a major crash, even if there is a what he calls a big ugly event, I know
A black
that my
swan
family
event.
is going to be taken care of. And
Yep.
I think you just have to be convinced of it. But again, you have to do the work to know that that is the case if you invest in stock in the stock market. So I have nothing else to say, man. Like that's
It's so simple.
It is the simple
just
part
to
of the
add,
book.
You were right. It was 0.04% because I just looked down and I see the number because swap total stock market index fund is 0.03% is the
Okay.
cost. So look, Vanguard's not a bad place to invest. If somebody wants to invest in Vanguard, they're an excellent company. I would say if you're going to invest, go with one of the top three, which is Vanguard, Schwab, or Fidelity. Any of those three work. And in my opinion, Schwab is easiest for me because I have my checking account there, I have my investment accounts there, and it's just easy for me. I look at it literally every day, so it's easier for me to look at that money and to know where it's at. It's all in one place, and then I check my Fidelity account every other day, kind of a thing, rather than having some accounts with Vanguard, and then I have my checking account with the local credit union, and then I have my HSA with Fidelity, and then I have my 401k with work. Like, it's easier for me just to have it all in one place. Part of that, the reason I can do that is because I own my own business. So I have all of my, business all of that in the same place. He goes into detail about a lot of, stuff. Basically, the whole point of the whole book is just to convince you that actively managed mutual funds is not what you need to do. You need to trust the stock market. Yes, there will be downturns, but that is insignificant over the period of time. And yes, from 2000 to 2008, the market lost around in total, I don't have the exact number, -3% or something. And people will use that and say, well, you see, stocks aren't worth investing in because you can actually lose money over an 8-year period or something like that. There will always be downturns in the stock market. The key is just to invest every month. And I see these articles that are written that are like, look, see, buy and hold investing doesn't work whenever the market takes a 30% downfall. And somebody goes from having $500,000 in their, 401k to $300,000 literally in a period of 2 weeks. And like, oh my gosh, I just lost $200,000. Well, you're not even close to retirement, so why are you worried about it? Keep putting money in, trust the process, trust the stock market. The reality is, after there's a major decline, like 20 to 30%, the stock market will return 20+% a year for some years. So why would you not trust that? It always does. It always does. And if it doesn't bounce back, and if it takes that hit and it goes down like the Depression was, it went down 90% at one point, the reality is there are much bigger problems in the world. And we're not going to need to be worrying about retirement. We're going to need to be worrying about where we're going to find our next bottle of water at that point. Yeah. So we're going to be worried about how we plant a garden so that we can actually have food. We're going to be worried about having enough bullets so that we can hunt to feed our family. You know what I mean? Like, there are going to be much bigger issues at hand rather than worrying about the stock market, because if the stock market tanks to the point where it just completely explodes, then there are much bigger worries. So keep it in the stock market. It's been the most dependable source of growth, even more dependable than real estate, which real estate took a huge run up in 2020, 2021, 2022, but then it's flatlined since then. There are a lot of headaches with real estate. Owning real estate's like owning a part-time business. People don't realize that. People who promote real estate as the way to become very wealthy just conveniently fail to mention that they will have people who live in their houses who smear poop on the wall and who don't pay for 6 months, and you have to take them to court and evict them. Like, these are all things that happen with real estate they have to put up with. If you want the easiest, the most simple path to wealth that, even in my opinion, beats real estate in a lot of cases, just take your money, invest it in a total stock mutual fund, do it every month, do it on the regular, and you're going to get outstanding results, and you're going to be wealthy one day. But the key comes back to what you were talking about, which is you have to get yourself right to the point to where you understand these fundamental laws of investing and spending your money. Like, you have to not be worried about what other people think. You have to not, take out a bunch of debt for a new car. You have to just every single month invest a little bit, whether that's $500 a month, whether that's $100 a month, if that's all that you can start with, whether that's $2,000 a month. If that's 50% of your income, if that's 10% of your income, start somewhere, start investing. You will not see the benefit of it immediately. You may only see it grow by $200 in the first year. But in the first 10 years, you're going to see it grow by thousands and thousands of dollars till it gets to the point to where I've been investing for 20 years now. And I sent you my number recently, and I told you how shocked I was at how much it had grown. And I compiled it all in one place under a single money app. And I'd never seen it all together with the total in one place. And I looked at the total and I was like, holy cow, that's more than I thought. Because, I have a Roth IRA. Megan has a Roth IRA. I have an IRA. I have a 401k. Megan has a 401k. And we have an HSA. And we have, certain amounts that are invested in each of those. Well, when in total, all of those are retirement accounts. In total, I was like, wow, investing over the years has really paid off to where we're going to be in a good position because we followed the rules that J.L. Collins presents in this book.
Yeah, it's funny, man. You are the guru when it comes to this conversation. Like I don't know what I'm saying half the time when it comes to money, other than you convinced me to do this. Like you're the proponent in my own life that has gotten me to think about these things. And I would say that when it comes to finances and the stock market, I know only enough to know that I can invest in the stock market and be financially independent. Not now, but
that's all that you need to know.
20 to 30 years from now, yes. And I just say that. I just say that to say you don't have to know the ins and outs of all stocks, which is why indexing is so important. But even in this conversation, like you're saying these things that are like you put so much thought into your own finances, into your own investing, that it's just evident of the knowledge discrepancy that I have in this. But even with that discrepancy of knowledge and understanding, at the bottom line, if you do follow the simple plan to wealth, which is live below your means, invest a surplus, and avoid debt, like that is what I followed. Kind of got lucky with it in some ways because I didn't intentionally do that. But I got lucky with those things, and that truly is, I think, that is a simple plan to wealth. It's funny because he talks about how simple this is, and me not reading into what he was saying, I wrote down in my journal how simple this is, and there's a reason why it's called the simple plan, and it is
simple
as putting that money into your retirement accounts or into your 401k or into your investments, and just let it grow. So it's good stuff.
I mean,
man.
you're saying that I'm a guru, but the reality is there's nothing guru about it. It's literally spend less than you make, avoid debt at all costs, and invest the difference. And when you invest the difference, put it in a total stock market. So for most people, the most simple thing is for them so that they can do percentages is to start with 10% a year. They're not even going to notice it out of their check. Go to your 401k administrator at work. Say, I want to, if they're not already, because hopefully they're already, because they're probably getting a match at work. So they're at least getting the match. Put it at 10%, and then every year grow it by 1%. So next year up it to 11%. Once a year, go to HR. I want to increase, or you can even do it. Megan, she can do it online in her account. She can increase or decrease the amount she puts in 401k. Like there are reasons why I prefer to invest in our own Roth IRAs. But that's getting more complex than it needs to be. And sure, I know those things. But the guru part of it is going to your 401k plan administrator, starting at 10%, increasing by, or if you can afford it, start at 15%. Or if you can afford it, start at 20%. And then just have that money automatically invested in a total stock market index fund. It doesn't matter if it's with Vanguard, doesn't matter if it's Schwab, doesn't matter if it's Fidelity. So the company that runs Megan's 401k, the administrator is an insurance company. And the insurance company has crazy high prices, but she gets a match, so she at least invests up to the match. But it's John Hancock. John Hancock is not known for their low fees. But you know what? John Hancock has a 500 S&P 500 index fund. Do you know what the costs are on that John Hancock, one of the most expensive 401k providers out there? Do you know what the expense fees are on that John Hancock S&P 500 index fund are?
I say 5%.
No, 0.05% on that S&P 500 index fund. which
Okay.
is equal with what Vanguard charges.
Right, right.
So there are options out there. So just put the money in your 401k, let it go on autopilot. It's automatically taken out of your check every month, and then have the money automatically invested in whatever index fund you see. And I'm looking down through the choices. There are 25 choices. This one says index fund. I'm going to choose that one. Like literally, that's all you have to do. Don't get complicated. Index fund. Click it. 100% of my investment goes in that. Now, when you're 5 years from retirement, that's when it starts to get a little more complicated. But for most people, they don't have enough to be able to retire right now. So they're going to be in the money growth stage and the accumulation stage for a lot longer than they're expecting. But just do it automatically. It's so easy. And that's why this book is so good. It can get complicated. It doesn't need to be. It's literally the simple path to wealth. You have any closing thoughts?
I don't think so, man. It's still trying to learn about this stuff. Still trying to save. I think the biggest thing is when you do save, make it automatic. Like make it to where it comes out of your paycheck automatic. Don't manually do it, because if you're manually doing this, you're going to rationalize some months when you have expenses. That you're okay. I'm not going to put in my 10%. I'm going to put in 5% this month. So I think that having it automated is huge. That way you don't know, like you said, you don't know it leaves your paycheck. What you get in your bank, what's direct deposit into your bank is what you learn to live on month to month. So
Right.
yeah, just automate it. Do it and automate it.
And two great books for that is The Automatic Millionaire by David Bach. I'm not sure if you read that one. And the second one,
Yes,
which I
I
know
have,
you've
yeah.
read, which is I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
He talks about just automatically doing it every month. You will eventually be a millionaire. Two excellent books that people can read to just be convinced that just do it automatically. Just do it. You will eventually get there. I think that's the hard part is not, and people complicate it, I think, on purpose. I think part of the reason why they say, well, I don't want to invest in the stock market. The stock market's going to lose. And what do I invest in? Mutual fund, and I need a financial advisor. It can't be as simple as just choosing the index fund in my 401k, can it? Is because they want to have that money to spend now.
Right.
Like, I think that's what the problem. And it goes back to your point, which is they need to get themselves right. And I feel like I'm pointing the finger. I don't want to point the finger, but people need to come to a realization that it's so simple to be secure financially. It's so simple. And even like you say, I'm the guru. The reality is I'm not a guru. It's literally just a simple process, but people refuse to realize a simple process. They can start by reading this book, for sure. They can start by reading Automatic Millionaire by David Bach, or I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. They can read Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey has some great books on the subject, but just educate yourself and start doing it. I mean, it's a character thing at that point.
Yeah.
What are we
100%.
reading next? We are going to be reading
Who Moved My Cheese?
Cheese? Yes, which was
I
your
can't wait to
nickname
read
in
it.
college.
gonna be good.
Cheese.
Yeah, don't even go there.
So we're going to read that. We're going to record it next week. We're going to back on our every 2-week release schedule.
Yep.
And we might read another book after that, but I know that I'm working through The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene right now. So I have a lot of thoughts on that. I think I'm on page 200 or so right now.
Dang.
It's
Wow,
been
good for you. I just finished
it's,
chapter 2 last night.
I think it's 600 something pages
Yeah,
long, so it's going to
600,
be a
yeah.
lot to work through. So we'll talk about whether or not we want to do that one next, or we want to do a smaller book next to give us time to work through The Laws
Yeah.
of Human Nature. But until the next episode, anything else?
No, man. Thanks as always. I learned from you, man, in this topic. So thank you.
All right, we'll see you guys next episode.